America likes to sell the picture of the compliant, soft-spoken black man, bowing, scraping, surviving. But not everyone played along after emancipation. Some black men stood tall, some stood armed, and they didn't flinch, no matter the cost. Meet Miles Yeldell of Pleasant Lane, Edgefield County, South Carolina, a man born enslaved in 1818 who lived free, fierce, and fearless. Edgefield wasn't just any county, it was the blood-soaked heart of white supremacist terror. More lynchings than anywhere else in South Carolina. Black voter massacres that shook the nation. A place where freedom cost blood. But Miles Yeldell, he didn't bow, he didn't run. He looked white men in the eye and lived to tell about it. He was a political agitator, a bank robber, a regular jailbreaker, a living nightmare to the white power structure that tried and failed to cage him. They feared him so much, no one ever even tried to lynch him. He was a South Carolina African-American legend before black legends were even written about in that state. And thanks to my cousin and fellow Genealogy Adventures researcher Loretta Bellamy, we found him. This is the story of the man who refused to kneel, Miles Yeldell. A July 4th, 1872 Edgefield Advertiser newspaper published a lengthy article about him and his political activities. One paragraph from this long article stands out. About 11 o'clock, Miles Yeldell, a yellow man, came marching down the road at the head of about 300 men and boys, mounted upon a stallion which pranced and capered to the tap of the drum in its rear. Miles, I understand, was the officer of the day, and without uniform, and using a stick as a sword, he bore very much the mien of a Georgia major. His commands were very readily obeyed, however, and as he filed left and halted in front of the stand, he was greeted with loud cheering. Miles was once again covered by an article published in 1873, again in Edgefield. The headline read, "The Arrests Begun in Edgefield." On Tuesday afternoon, U.S. Deputy Marshal Beatty, accompanied by a federal lieutenant and two privates, and with the infamous and ignorant Miles Yeldell as guide, rode in glory from our town and marched gallantly into the Nicholas Adams neighborhood to arrest Messrs. Oliver Dobson, James Norris, and several other good citizens accused in the matter of the late shooting of a colored man named Goodman. This affair happened about a month ago and was perpetrated, as far as we can learn, by either Negroes who had been threatened by Goodman on account of Democratic proclivities. Miles Yeldell is beyond all doubt the most infamous human being in Edgefield County. He is the fellow who, after a whole life of crime and villainy, robbed our postmaster 3 years ago and, being convicted, served a long term in the Albany Penitentiary. Since his return amongst us, his life, if possible, has been worse than ever before. This invading force returned on Tuesday night, empty-handed and without laurels. Mr. Dobson, Mr. Norris, and their friends were not to be found. They are patriots and citizens of the best class, and they do not design being juggled out of their vote on Tuesday. After the election, they will come into Marshal Beatty without the interposition of Miles Yeldell and the soldiers. Now, Miles had an apple that did not fall far from his family tree. His son, John Yeldell. John basically asked his father to hold his beer. John's story is one for my cousin and co-host Danya to tell. She's the person who researched his history. She's the one who found him. But in terms of Miles, his papa, they called him infamous. They called him ignorant. They called him everything but what he was, a man who refused to be broken. On the 4th of July, 1872, while most black folks in Edgefield were still ducking and surviving, Miles Yeldell came riding down the road like a general, on horseback, head high, leading 300 black men in formation. They called him a Georgia major. They cheered his name, and white supremacy trembled. By 1873, they couldn't kill him, so they tried to bury him with words. They called him a criminal, a villain, the most infamous man in Edgefield. But here's the truth. Miles Yeldell was free, and in a place built to kill free black men, he survived. He fought back, and he won. South Carolina tried to erase him, tried to erase his son, John Yeldell, too, as well as the voter registration massacre that propelled John to become a household name. A man who didn't just carry the torch, he lit a wildfire with it. But that story is for my cousin and co-host Danya to tell. You won't find Miles Yeldell in your school books, but a cousin and family researcher found him. And now you know his name, Miles Yeldell, a man who bowed before no man.